I'm not in the meeting and I'm over here on my phone and I'm distracted and whatever it is that I'm going to do, I stay focused, and that's the thing that's what I'm doing. And so I'm going to give it my all. And when I look at my calendar and I look through my days, I'm in it all day. And when I'm done, I'm exhausted because I've been focused in all these different things as I go throughout my day.
This video is proudly sponsored by Chapman University's Archibald College of Business and Economics, located in beautiful sunny Southern California. Are you thinking about pursuing a master's in accounting? Chapman's MSA program is tailored for ambitious professionals like you. With intimate class size and a collaborative atmosphere, you will receive personalized attention from world-class faculty who bring extensive industry expertise to the classroom. Enhance your accounting skills, fulfill CPA license requirements, and elevate your career with Chapman's flexible MSA program. Discover more and apply today at chapman.edu/MSA. And also, I like how you teach your kids all these life lessons as well, because I think it's really good for them to identify all these characteristic and also all these lessons at early stage in their life. It will help them so much when they actually start their career in the future. And you work at Productivity for 7 years. And so you have experience from on the other side, I would say on the other side of the service, seeing like in industry side is the public side. Can you share the difference between public and industry? The hours you work, the experience, how you work with people, with the team, and also how you balance the time.
Yeah. So, and it's a challenging question to answer. I can give my perspective, but it really does differ quite a bit for people, that are out there. When I think about when I was originally in public accounting, I worked a lot. And so that was normally, I would say I averaged probably 50-hour weeks. And then as I advanced in my career, I had kids. And so then I had to shift some of my priorities, and I had to figure out, okay, how can I be the best dad that I can be, which is the most important job I will ever have? And how do I balance that with my career and what I want to build on that front? So when I switched to industry, I actually brought down my hours a little bit. And so I was working less. So how did I do that? That's where time management becomes super important, and priorities. So when I looked at how I'm going to spend my time, I became very focused on I'm only going to put in 8.5, 9 hours today. I'm going to make the biggest possible impact I can out of that time. And so I got much more rigorous and intentional about how I spent my time. And that was really the first time in my career. Like when I started earlier, I was taking on everything. I'd say yes to everything. And then as I got a little bit more advanced, I got a little bit more discretion over what I would do. And I was more likely to look at a situation and say, that's not really a good use of my time. I'm going to have to learn how to say no. And so I learned that. And that was how I was able to reduce my workload when I went to industry. Now, when I've come back to the CPA world, I still do that same thing. And so I've been able to keep my hours down because I am very judicious about where I spend my time. And so, and that is one of the challenges, because basically work is endless. Every night when I go home, there's always a list of things that I wanted to do that day and or things I need to get done that you haven't gotten done. So I could work nonstop and I'd still never get everything done. So you have to figure out what is that right level for you, given what you want to do, both your family life, your career, and then also what you do outside of work that makes you happy and makes you special. You got to figure out how do you get all those three things in. And so in this current role, I've figured out how to manage my workload while still getting sort of what I believe is kind of the optimum impact for the hours that I work.
Wow, Dave, I love it when you mention about you can work so many hours, but you feel like you don't get anything done at all. Because I was in that spot. No, I have been. I mean, I'm still struggling trying to like figure out what's the best schedule for me to get things done efficiently and effectively. So for people who like struggle to say no, what tips and advice you can provide them to improve their skill to say no more often, so when they say yes, it's a really yes?
Yeah. And I think that's also important that when you say yes, you need to be all in. So if I accept a meeting, I'm in that meeting. I'm not in the meeting and I'm over here on my phone and I'm distracted and whatever it is that I'm going to do, I stay focused, and that's the thing that's what I'm doing. And so I'm going to give it my all. And when I look at my calendar and I look through my days, I'm in it all day, and when I'm done, I'm exhausted because I've been focused in all these different things as I go throughout my day. I think to your question of, how do you say no? I think part of it also comes with early in my career, I wasn't very confident. And so as a result of that, I felt like I was still learning and kind of the world was overwhelming. And so I really couldn't say no because I didn't feel like I had enough. I didn't know exactly what I was doing. I was still figuring it out. And some of that was good because I did take some things on and I did learn from them, both things I liked and things I didn't like. But part of what I learned as I started saying no is a lot of it is people respect when you say no, but you have to explain why. And so it's like, hey, I would love to do that, but right now I'm focused on we've got this initiative and I really need to give all my time to that. And when people hear that, it's like, oh, okay, that person is in charge of where they're going. They know what's important. And the thing that I'm doing, even though it's important to me, it's not, it doesn't match. My priority doesn't match, the other priority. And that's okay. And what I found is that people were more accepting than I thought when I started saying no to things. And so that's one of the things. And the first time you do it, it's going to be uncomfortable. But sort of by doing that, and if you know what is going to drive your success and the things that are really important and you're focusing on those, people respect that. And they're like, oh, okay, that person has a plan, they're going somewhere. And so therefore I respect that. And so I think as part of that, that just shows people that you're a good professional, that you have your act together, that you've thought through priorities, and you're really trying to achieve something. You're not just putting in hours to put in hours. You're actually trying to get something done, whatever that is for you. And it's a different thing, I think, for everybody. But if you're pursuing that goal, people respect the fact that you're actually trying to accomplish something and get something done.
That's so true. I think I like the fact that you need to explain no, so people will feel better and accept your no easier, instead of to say, oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't do it, and they say, why, what happened,
Mhm.
tell me why. So I always tell staff that you should give managers, seniors, or both, before they come to you, whatever they're asking. Like if they ask for the update, progress update, send it to them before they even reach out to you. They need to have this email sent out to the client, sent to the client before they even think about that. It will improve, will make them feel comfortable to let you manage this job, but also you own your project, you own your career as well. So yeah, I love
Yeah, and there's one thing I would add on that, which is it is so important. If you say yes, you have to deliver. So if you accept something, basically whatever that commitment entails, basically you need to do that because so much of your professional career, so much of your relationships is about trust. And so people need to know that they can trust you. So if I say, hey, I need help with this thing, I need to get it done, it's due by next Thursday, and if you say yes, you need to get that done by next Thursday because your word means a lot, especially in the CPA world. Trust it's everything. And so when you say that you've done something, if you're an auditor and you've said, yes, I did that test and here were the results, you better have done that test. Don't and so that's the foundation, that's the bedrock of being a CPA, is that, society trusts us and they depend on us for that. So, but I think that's applicable, even if you're not a CPA, just in terms of to have strong relationships, people need to know that they trust you, they can trust you. And trust is built over time. I go in trusting people. Like a lot of people are like, oh, I can't trust you until you prove yourself. I'm like, if I did that, I would be exhausted. I'm just going to trust everybody until I determine that they're not trustworthy. But those small little things, when somebody makes a commitment and says, I'm going to have something done for you by X amount of time, or we're going to make this happen, and it doesn't happen, that really, that makes trust hard. So while you're early in your career working on those commitments, and if you don't say no, if you say yes, whatever you committed to, you got to deliver on.
I love that. It's so true, because it makes your yes so strong that when you say no, people get easier to accept it. whatever the excuse you want to tell them, but it's so true because they know that your yes is just so valid.
Yeah,
So
and even if you say, "Look, I'd love to do that, but I committed to this over here and I honor my commitments." And I told them I was going to have this done by next Thursday and I need to it's important for them and I need to do my part. So I can't do this thing that you're asking me to do because that's my focus. I have to get this to a successful outcome. And when people hear that, they're like, "Oh, I want to work with that person because if they care about their commitments that much, I want them on my team." And which is really what you want as a teammate and a coworker is for you to be able to have people around you that you trust, that you enjoy working with. And then if you can be the person that people trust you to come to you with, whether it's a complex assignment or something small, but they know they can count on you. That is so important as a professional as you start your career, and that will set you up for success.
I love that. I love that. I hope audience will pick it up, all this advice. It will significantly improve your career growth in the future. So back to your career path, that you work on productivity for 7 years, focus on technologies. I'm just curious, what in technology that drives you so much?
Well, I'm an optimist by nature. And when I look at technology, I see an opportunity for us to make the world a better place in terms of being able to use technology. I mean, so I'm that old that I started, and I was just going through this last week with somebody. It's like I am pre-mobile phone. Like when I came up, there were no mobile phones, but it's earlier than that. In terms of, I was pre-internet. So like, there wasn't like when something came up, you didn't just go search the internet. Now it existed because it had been, but like in terms of actual practical usage, I was also pre-email at Ernst and Young. I remember when I got my first email address, I'd had the Prodigy account and all that stuff for your, personal stuff, but I hadn't had a work email account. So those are some things that, as I saw that progression happen and I saw the power of the internet, when I saw the power of the mobile phone, I realized it can make our lives really so much better. And so the whole concept of technology's impact on the world and on organizations, that to me is fascinating. So, and it comes naturally to me. So I'm able to help people who are not technologists because I can communicate to them in a way that helps them understand. And it's not so much about, I'm not a technical guy. Like I'm not so much about the technology. I'm about the outcomes. What can technology do for us? And if you're a business, what can it do? Well, it can make my employee experience better. It can make us more profitable. Whatever it is that you're pursuing, I love that technology has the aspect to do that. The other thing that I love is technology is always changing and evolving. And so like take AI today, AI as it stands today, tomorrow it will be better. The day after that, it's going to be even better. And like, we have no idea what that is going to morph and turn into and how that's going to impact our society. Now, some people have I don't like that. That's going to, I think bad things are going to happen when that happens. And I do think there are some issues that we have to deal with. So, for example, I think mobile phones are a massive distraction. And when I think about mobile phones and I see all the negative things that have, the heavy use of social media, the negative impact it has on, especially like girls in high school and what it does to their self-image and those types of things. I think there are things with technology that we have to grapple with. But I think in the end of the day, I think what technology can do for us and the advances that it can provide is well worth sort of figuring out how to navigate these challenges.
I love that. I think I have to limit myself how many hours I use on my phone, and I have to set up the time. Like I can spend this certain number of hours on my phone only, and it will lock it. So I will have to. I cannot just. It's just so addicted.
Yep. And
It's
that's one of so we're wrapping up 2024 now as we record this, and brain rot. I mean, that was one of the words of the year, which is, basically when you're consuming all these things and, something goes viral or whatever, your brain is distracted by all of these other things and it's sucked into things that really at the end of the day really don't matter. And that's one of the things that bothers me. It's like you're not reading a book and you're not learning and you're not making yourself better because you're distracted by something that happened by somebody that you'll never meet, who is interacting with some other person who you'll never meet, but you're consumed in that. but it's like there's so much else going around you in your personal relationships. Look at the people around you. Those are the people that you should spend time with, because those are the ones that are real friends, that are your family. These are the people that you really should be caring about, not some other distraction that's happening elsewhere in the world.
I think it is an interesting stage in the world right now that people try to find the right balance using the technology, because it's still something like people try to figure it out, but it's just so addictive that you can just spend hours of hours and then the time just gone so quickly that you didn't even recognize that. Maybe in the future people will find the best way to control the technology, not do not let the technology control themselves or like control your time, your mind. As you said, you can read the book, you can have actual in-person interaction with people around you. So I feel like it's kind of like in progress that people figure out what is the right balance for them with the technology.
Yeah, completely agree. And that's something that, some people are good at saying, I'm going to spend, an hour and that's it. Other people, they don't have that. And I think part of that comes with development, just in terms of how your brain matures over time. And I think, like, I'm super happy to see more and more schools that are not allowing cell phones during the day and forcing people to actually interact with each other. And so I think there's a lot of things that are happening, but you're right. We're kind of figuring it out as we go. And I think we will. There's going to be bumps along the way for sure. But at the end of the day, the net effect of technology can be so great that I think it's worth those bumps in the road.
Yep. And now let's go back to your career path again. That after you work at productivity, you start looking at the Arch Gold Inc. as a vice president and CIO, and also as a virtual CIO for a job after that as well. What's the difference between those CIO position and the productivity position you have at the productivity, and why you decide to make that move?
Yeah, so Protiviti was more of a consulting role. So a lot of the things that I was working on there were, things like business continuity planning and cybersecurity system implementations, those types of things. So the difference between that, like, you're advising and helping, but you don't really own the outcome. When I went to Arch Coal, now known as Arch Resources, when I was there, suddenly it's like, okay, what's our strategic plan as an organization? What are we trying to accomplish? And what can technology do for the company? And then figuring out, okay, I had a team of about 80 people, and here's the resources, here's what we have, here's the outcomes we're trying to achieve. How do we affect that change? How do we cause that outcome to happen? So what I loved about being in that CIO spot was that, I owned it, and sort of the outcome and strategic things of the firm. So, nowadays kind of cloud computing is like, it's everywhere and everybody accepts it. When I was in my CIO gig, I had several people who, when I said, okay, strategically, we're going to pivot and we're going to go to the cloud and this is what we're going to do, that wasn't a popular decision, because at the time, I don't want to say it was revolutionary, but it was a big change. But I owned that, and I knew that for the company to achieve the outcome and where we were going, I knew that was a necessary step that we needed to take. So I really enjoyed helping guide that strategic direction, and then helping my team learn new skills and actually accomplish things that I don't think they thought that they could accomplish. And so for me, that was a very rewarding experience. And like I said earlier, when you actually own something and you have to work within a corporation, it's different than when you're an advisor or a consultant or an auditor. And so I think being in both those different roles, I think I learned quite a bit when I stepped into that CIO role.
That's interesting. And looking at your career path, you spent around 10, 11 years in public, and then you spent about 17 years in industry, and now you go back to public accounting. What made you decide to go back to public accounting when the initial reason when you left public accounting was because you work so many hours, you need to find the balance in your life? I would love to see the reason why.
Yeah, when I decided to come back, so when I started wrapping up my CIO things, and I started thinking about what's next, for me it was like, okay, well, I have this interesting combination. There's not a lot of people who have come up as a CPA and done those types of things, but then also had a technology leadership role how can I optimize that or maximize that? And when I looked back, so one of the things I love about the CPA profession is the people. And some of the best people you will ever have the opportunity to work with, highest performing, most compassionate, just great people to be around. That's a lot of the CPA community. So after I came out of that and I started thinking about what I wanted to do next, I was approached by a great firm, my current firm, that I had respected for years from afar and always winning best places to work. Everybody I knew that ever worked at the firm had great things to say about it. And so when I started having that conversation, it was like, okay, here's an interesting opportunity. Here's a firm that has been, entrepreneurial for decades, starting different advisory services, but they'd never had anybody that really managed and led all of the advisory practice areas. So I'm like, this is an interesting opportunity for me where I can take the CPA background. I know how CPA firms work. And then I've got this technology experience. If I can bring that to help a firm build an advisory practice, that would be awesome. And so when I looked at that and started thinking about, okay, well, what do I want to do? And I learned more about what the firm wanted to do. And then I realized that sounds really exciting. I would love to be part of that. And the other thing that was interesting is that sort of everything that I do, one of those stops along the way prepared me for the job I'm in today. So I'll give you an example. When I was at Ernst & Young, for about 3 years, I specialized in healthcare. So I figured out how healthcare works. I audited healthcare organizations, hospitals, physician practices, those types of things. And then now at Anders, we have a healthcare practice. And so we do something called provider enrollment, which is basically we help smaller healthcare organizations enroll their doctors in insurance plans. And so I immediately understood that business because over 20 years ago at Ernst & Young, I was exposed to that. So just had more and more instances of where things I had learned along the way were going to be valuable in the role that I'm serving in now. So for me, that made it easy to make that decision to turn the corner and kind of this is the perfect combination for me, a CPA background combined with a technologist in one role.